Hello, good morning. We have been reading about the Impressionist artist. We just went over Claude Monet, and he did a lot of little, basically dots, not dots, but little tiny strokes of paint. And now we're going over to Edgar Degas. He was born in Paris, France. Let's look at his name. See, this says Degas. That S, you do not hear it. He was born in Paris, France in 1834. This was just a few years before Monet. Degas started his career in Italy, where he studied the masters of the Renaissance. Let's see. It says his first inclination, meaning he first thought that he would follow along with the past and paint historical scenes. But something, perhaps the Lord, perhaps not, was begging him to be more modern. So back in Paris, he met Edouard.
Modern for their time.
Right, modern for their time. He met Edouard Manet. How do we say that? She put it in here.
Monet.
Let me see. Monet is different from Monet. Where was it?
I'm pretty sure it was Monet.
I wanted to look at it. Oh. Monet. We have to emphasize the nay. Monet. Okay, so Monet had also been influenced by Monet. Now, Degas also met Monet after seeing the realism of the Impressionists. Realism meaning just painting things looking realistic. Degas found this is the modern style that he was looking for, so he changed his approach, and he was forever labeled an Impressionist. He did not like being called an Impressionist. He liked the realism, but he didn't like their techniques. He thought their work appeared hasty and unfinished. He trained in the classical style and spent a long time planning his works and painted in a studio, always. He had little patience for the outdoors and didn't care for landscapes. So here, I'm not sure if it's just the way she's writing it, but let other people, let other people do their thing and you do your thing. No need to be like, I don't care for these things. So it could just be the way she's writing it. I don't know. You see,
Didn't care for what again?
the outdoor, and he considered Monet's paintings looking like they were unfinished. But it's his painting, so it's finished when he says it's finished. Let's see. Degas was not similar to Monet. They spent time together in Paris, and they displayed their works at the same shows, but they were not really good friends. Few people were good friends, she says, but then again, few people were good friends with Degas. Sounds like he might have been a little bit hard to get along with. He took his work too seriously to allow for friends or family. That's sad. Where Edgar Degas excelled was in blending his classic techniques with the realism of the Impressionists. His ordinary scenes are stunningly beautiful and have the feel of a masterpiece. Something unique to him was how frequently he, quote-unquote, cut off the people in the scenes. In the same way the camera would fail to catch everything in the room, so Degas did on canvas. So here you see. This is called the dance class. He painted ballerinas behind the scenes rather than on stage. Do you notice how people are cut off like you don't quite see all of her feet. It's kind of like in film where if you're filming something, you might not get quite everybody in the shot.
But today we have big cameras.
Well, yes, but still.
Back then they had a paintbrush.
It's true, but that was what she's saying that he does with his scenes, is he frequently kind of cuts it off. It kind of gives the impression that it's not posed. It's not a posed portrait, and that like there's more going on outside of what he's painting. Degas specialized in mood and movement. He displayed movement best at two very different locations, the racetrack and the ballet. At the racetrack, he was able to perfect the paintings of horses, which he had copied from Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo. But unique to Degas was his scene selection. He didn't paint the obvious scene of horse racing at the horse track. Instead, he captured them shuffling around before the race. So we'll have to look at that. She says, see his painting race horses. And this gave an interesting perspective. He also did the same unusual thing with his ballerinas. Rarely did he paint or sculpt them while they were performing. Rather, he caught them standing around at rehearsals, stretching at the practice bar, or primping behind the stage, meaning getting themselves ready. Primping usually has to do with the final touches on your hair, final touches on makeup. He loved the casual side of the professional life. And Miss Hobar said she loves his ballerinas. Perhaps the mood found in his works, such as the lonely woman in L'Absinthe, says something of his own isolation. He was famous and well paid in his lifetime, but his personal life was not so sweet, and he struggled to keep his eyesight in later years and appeared to be miserable. He passed away in 1917 in Paris, and his works became even more famous after his passing. Let's see. I think we'll stop with him and we'll read. Well, should we read? No, I think we'll read the next two next time. It's only 7 minutes, though. I guess we'll keep going. And we'll look at some paintings. All right, now Pierre-Auguste Renoir. It's no coincidence our next artist, Renoir, was also born in France, just 1 year after Monet, different from Monet. Degas and Monet, like those two artists, Renoir was a product of his time. He was also influenced by Monet, Edouard, and he followed the trend of the Impressionists. Now, Renoir was his ability to paint soft. He studied Raphael and other masters, and he was able to capture people and places he loved with great beauty and warmth. So here's one of his right here. This is one of his highest selling. It's called Dance at Le Moulin de la Galette. It focuses on vibrant mood and motion of a crowded cafe in France. Do you see that? He just said he paints soft. Does that look soft?
Yes.
It's hard to say it looks soft, so soft as a texture or a feeling. Okay, let's see here. We said that. Rather than find his subjects at the racetrack or the ballet, Renoir found his subjects in the streets and the cafes of Paris, and for that, the French loved him. In the 1860s, Renoir met Monet in Paris. Sometimes painting side by side, they experimented with outdoor painting and the real color of shadows, which aren't necessarily black or brown. Do you remember the show where an art critic made fun of the works of Monet? No. Oh, she means what she was talking about earlier. Renoir presented 6 paintings at that same show, and that was the beginning of Renoir's fame. In 1890, he married one of his models. Like Monet, Renoir enjoyed painting his wife and his children. Most of Renoir's works captured happiness through vibrant colors and soft expressions. Okay, we'll have to look. She says, look at girls at the piano. He also experimented with a few changes in style, but his works are still recognizable. Favorites of the ages, Girl with the Hoop, Boating on the Seine. We'll have to look these up. And Dance at, we just looked at that, which at $78.1 million is one of the highest selling masterpieces in history. Somebody paid $78 million for that painting? No, thank you. I'll just paint my own version. In this masterpiece, which captures a busy French cafe, Renoir focused more on the people and less on the scenery. Renoir painted a portrait of Monet standing outdoors at an easel in a garden, just the way that we would expect to find Monet. Unfortunately, Renoir's last 20 years were very challenging. He developed rheumatoid arthritis. That's making it hard, painful for your joints to move, especially probably his hands. He was wheelchair bound. His hands were crippled, and he was forced to be inventive in positioning his brushes and reaching his palette. To accommodate, he created a rolling canvas that he could move to where he needed it. Renoir was one of the most successful Impressionists, and that might be because he completed more works than his peers. He left behind thousands of paintings. One of his highlights was probably seeing his own works hanging in the Louvre, the art museum in France, in 1919, next to the masters that he had admired and learned from. All right, Mary Cassatt. Unlike our other artists, she was born in the United States. This was in 1844. Her family took a trip to Europe when she was 11 and went to the Paris World Fair. She was exposed there to the works of Edward Degas. She could not have known then that she would be one of the few good friends that Degas ever had. He also became her mentor and used her as a model. Mary pursued art school, but found it very disappointing. This was in the United States. There was a great stigma attached to being a woman and an artist. It was difficult to get a good education as well during the American Civil War. So, against her father's wishes, she moved to Europe in 1866, and she took her mother and friends as chaperones. She found much more opportunity in Paris as a woman, but as an American, she was considered an outsider in Paris. She spent most of her career overcoming the obstacle of being a female artist. Isn't that weird?
That is.
Like, well, you're a woman, so get back in the house, dear. Well, I can paint in the house just as well as I can paint. Just weird. She was forced to receive most of her instruction privately. Degas and Renoir, like them, she copied and practiced the works of the masters, and like them, she was lured into the style of Impressionism. She attempted to take the style back to New York, but it was not well received. In Chicago, her paintings were accidentally destroyed in the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. Her break came when the Archbishop commissioned her to copy some paintings in Italy. That would take her back to Europe. She did well in Parma, Italy, and in Madrid, Spain, but France was still hostile towards her because she entered the art scene when Monet was being criticized for Impressionism. She was given an enormous break at a low point in her career. She was invited by Degas to display her works with the Impressionists, who began to host their own shows. This was a very high honor. She was only one of 2 women who ever displayed the works with these famous Impressionists. Mary Cassatt moved to outdoor painting through their influence. Her specialty would be the theme. We'll pause, hold on. Okay. Her specialty would be the theme of mothers and children in everyday life. Reading, watching ducks, bathing little dirty feet. She captured the bond of mothers and their children that transcends any time period. One of my personal favorites is children playing on the beach. This is Miss Hobart speaking. This could be, she says, apart from the 19th century clothing, because they wore much different clothing to the beach. This could be a scene from any day by the seashore. Mary Cassatt did not stay as a pure impressionist. After her shows in Europe, she experimented with other techniques and pastels. She did, however, stay true to the theme of mothers and children. So we'll look at some of her works too. In her old age, she struggled with numerous diseases and nearly went blind. This is a common theme for artists, going blind.
Probably from looking so hard at their paintings.
I don't know. I don't know if that's it. This forced her to stop painting in 1914. But do you think that stopped her? No. She fought with the suffrage movement for women in the United States, and having been a woman of unique success, it seemed that Mary supported the rights of women. It seems only fitting, When she was 82, she passed away in France in 1926. That was the same year that Monet died. All four Impressionists, in Miss Hobart's opinion, and the ones that she didn't have time to cover, left a beautiful mark with their passion for painting real life. Okay, so Impressionism they painted scenes from real life, and it was their Impressionism. Their first impression of it. Okay. So we will stop there and pick up with Charles Eastman. I don't even know who that is. Next time. Goodbye.